What's up, guys? Barry Game here, back with some more Idle Heroes, and today we kind of have an interesting topic to talk about. Earlier today, if you guys didn't check it out, go check out what is it? Hyperspace Hunter Aylamak. So HHA's skill card. We kind of discussed the positives and negatives and what his abilities can possibly do, but he also has a very good opportunity to really shake up the meta as a potential first Transcendence hero replacement, because as you guys know, Eloise is still to this day the go-to hero to build as your first E5 because, well, she feels as strong as a Transcendence hero. Essentially, she does some amazing things, but the one thing that he provides is, yes, he provides shields and healing just like Fairy Queen Vesa, but he also lowers the enemy's precision, which is one of the most important prerequisites for Eloise to be relevant. She has to block an attack, and therefore you want the enemy to have the least amount of precision possible to counter that block. So hopefully you guys enjoy this one. Let's jump right into it. Let's talk about how this hero could potentially shift up the meta. So first up, let's talk about why this might be a shift in the meta. Well, number one, Eloise is going to continue to be one of the most devastating early game heroes in the game, mainly because of the way her Scar Souls work. The fact that she can hit multiple targets, the fact that when enemies are slain, they already lose precision. And on top of that, this new hero has a chance to lower their precision by an absolute ton. Now, this is the big game changer, the game of danger. Upon blocking an attack, deals 600% attack damage to 3 random enemies and inflicts Scarred Soul. That Scarred Soul is going to deal damage at the end of every round, and on top of that is the way Eloise stays alive. Now, typically when you see an Eloise built a lot of these times, you're going to see like block attack or block HP stones, mainly because you want to get her up to as high block as possible, and normally you're going to see something more like a defensive artifact in the early game, maybe even a basic crown, because going for one single crown is actually a good idea. You can go overkill with an A and B just to kind of help prevent the enemies from having too much precision and getting past your guard, but that should be providing a lot of support. Beyond that, the other hero that really helps her out is Fairy Queen Vesa. Now, when you build Fairy Queen Vesa as your first Transcendence hero on these accounts, you actually are not using her as the main householder. You're continuing to use your Eloise, but what this hero does provide is tons of support to make sure that Eloise can stay alive in combat for as long as possible. A couple different things make her very strong, which is what we're going to be doing pretty much a one-to-one comparison on versus Fairy Queen Vesa and Hyperspace Hunter Aylamak. She provides shielding, all these fun stuff. She also has, a chance to self-heal to keep herself alive as long as possible, increasing attack of her allies. And one important thing when you're using a lot of random support heroes, when an ally dies, there's a 50% chance to inflict silence gag order, which basically means that the enemies can't release their active skills or crit. Very, very good things that are very strong for her. And then on top of that, she has Holy Incarnation, giving Blessing of Purity a lot of the times to the Eloise and herself, giving them a much lower chance to be critically hit. So that does provide a ton of support for this team. Now, when it comes to Sealand progress, you're kind of in a weird spot, because if you want to build a hero up to E5 and then turn them into a Transcendence, you're kind of hoping that you can get Sealand 25 or 20 done in the meantime. Fairy Queen Vesa with her base form Vesa is not very strong at that. We've seen a lot of people try to do it, even with an A tier Vesa. She's just really not a hero that can clear it out. But now let's talk about what this meta shift might mean with the new hero. One thing we showed off when Aylamak first came out was what he would look like as a first E5 hero, because we had an account that didn't have much on it. We could basically strip him down and power him up from 0 imprinting with no artifacts all the way up to a V4 hero with artifacts. Now, the downside of him as your first E5 hero is he just doesn't do things as well as a Eloise can do. Eloise can just do it so much better. But if he can still get you a Sealand 20 done in a relatively decent amount of time, is it worthwhile then going for him instead of Eloise? I don't think so. I think the meta is going to stay with Eloise. But what his abilities do let him do is potentially building him as a second E5 hero, because by that time you probably have at least up to about V3 on an Eloise, and what that means is you're now going to be able to convert all that power into him to try to jump on over and get your Sealand done in Fortress. Getting it done to 20 is going to be another important check mark, and you might be asking me, Barry, why is getting a 20 so important? Well, if you do come over to the Void Temple here, you'll actually see that you're losing out on 30% damage for every Sealand that you have not cleared out. Every one of these Sealands gives you a bonus, and that makes a big difference because this is valid for every single game mode in the Void. Now comes to the part of actually building Hyperspace Hunter Aylamak. Now you're most likely going to want to build him in the same exact format that you're used to in your normal Eloise account. The big benefit here, though, is he does have some things that really make it sound like he might be a better damage dealer, and the fact that a lot of these things can go off just naturally. One of them that I really like is the fact that there's so much block synergy here that Eloise just screams, "You are my partner hero." When an ally blocks, so this, when Eloise blocks successfully, she will get a shield equal to a certain percentage of attack. Now, this part could be very important because you'll notice down here, it specifically says a certain percentage of Hyperspace Hunter's Aylamak for the heal effect, but the shield effect just straight up says a certain percentage of attack and elegance for several rounds. What that means is if this is based on Eloise's attack, she's going to get a gigantic shield very, very easily. Now the skill effect for elegance is pretty good too. Increases all self damage reduction. Again, that works perfectly when you're just going for a basic crown on Eloise as well. And then even if this heal isn't like gigantic, it's still good because after you V4 Eloise, you're going to want to put your stellar shards most likely into your tenants, maybe into your HHA here. It might be worthwhile. We'll have to see. And then he himself has a really cool synergy down here when self-blocked successfully. Counterattacks, dealing attack damage. There's a chance to stun the target, which isn't necessarily good. That's almost a little counter synergistic with our Eloise unless she needs it to stay alive. She does provide a burn, or he does provide a burn potentially on the target, which is a good synergy with Phoenix in the early game because Phoenix is just an absolutely amazing pet to go for as one of your first ones, that or the lion Nemean. And then of course reduces precision of the target that is counterattacked. So even if you don't have access to a core, you're going to be able to reduce the precision just from his counterattack. So again, you're going to want him to have a very high block chance as well. This is really good because then he also has a built-in way to self-survive with healing. And then if you do manage to get your hand on one free-to-play core, now if you're a low spender, it'll be easier to get this, but the core will be much more influential than the core of Fairy Queen Vesa is. At the beginning of each battle, reduces all enemies' precision with a 100% chance to taunt them. Now the taunt does feel a little counter synergistic here, so it's like there's these really good positives but these big question marks of this might not actually be good for Eloise, and we're really gonna have to see how they perform together. And that's going to be my goal on a free-to-play account, to see if we can make that happen. Because if he's taunting the enemy, that means they're not attacking Eloise. And the only way Eloise really does damage is if she's getting attacked, she blocks and she counters attack with those scarred souls. So this is going to be really interesting to see how this plays out. He does have potential to really shake up the meta, and that's what I really want to see. I don't even care about the endgame meta. I just want to see this do something big in the early game. So hopefully you guys enjoy this one. Let me know if you like the editing and the little bit of changes we did in this video. A little bit more off, not off the cuff, a little more kind of premeditated and stuff. So let me know what you guys think. Hopefully you guys enjoy this one. If you take 1 second, hit that subscribe button. We're getting really close to 85,000 subscribers. So thank you guys so much. See you guys next time.